Ja not good in the West.
He's only played like 120 games.
Yeah.
But there's an element there where cats like Jimmy Butler and others don't feel it's the safest environment.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The New World. And in today's video, we discuss the surprising blockbuster trade that our hometown team, the Memphis Grizzlies, decided to pull after trading away Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic for KCP, Cole Anthony, 4 unprotected first-round picks, along with the pick swap, as well as which will be a top 2 protected pick in the 2029 NBA draft. Not only was the basketball world shocked by the haul given for Bane, who is yet to make an all-star appearance in the stacked Western Conference, but this trade led to more doors being opened by media and questions thrown around surrounding the franchise's 2 all-star players in Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. Media quickly began to go to the thought that the Grizzlies moving on from their third option meant they were looking towards the future and instead test the waters to see just how much they could get for trading the box office former All-NBA guard in Morant and the former Defensive Player of the Year and All-Defensive Big in Jaren Jackson, who also made the All-Star this year. But the Grizzlies front office made it clear that they were sticking with their first and second option, as well as Ja Morant tweeting that he would not be leaving and had no thought to do so. But that did not stop mainstream media sports channel First Take from weighing in on the situation and stating that the reason as to why one of the smallest markets in the NBA hasn't seen a big name player decide to move there when testing the waters in free agency. And that was the living conditions of the city of Memphis, and as Stephen A. Smith phrased it, players feeling unsafe when it comes to the city of Memphis that immediately turns down the thought of wanting to play there. This then sparked Ja and the city's mayor to reply to Smith's comments and tell him that the city has more to offer than danger. But we will get more into that though throughout the video, so make sure you stay tuned to hear our thoughts in the situation. So before we hop into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button as we are on the road to 10K subs. Turn on the post notifications, make sure to stay tuned for more content, and share this video to your friends, families, anyone. Make sure to let them know about the new world. But comment your thoughts on the Grizzlies move and if you think this will help the Grizzlies become contenders in the near future, or if you think the Grizzlies aren't done making moves. Now, Mal, what are your thoughts on the Grizzlies trading away Desmond Bane? Do you think the Grizzlies are done making moves this offseason? And once again, as we've talked about before, why do you think big name players don't want to play for the Memphis Grizzlies?
All right, I'm actually glad for people, if you're watching this video, you can probably tell that my boy Buffy is now. He's a little under the weather today, but I think that this is the perfect conversation for my brother Jay and I, because we've been going back and forth in the group chats discussing this. But I do want to kind of not pat myself on the back, because as Jay did iterate, this is the hometown team. We do live in the city. And so we do want to always see the city succeed, even if I'm giving some harsh critique about the Memphis Grizzlies organization, or if it's my alma mater, University of Memphis, our athletic teams. It comes from a standpoint of I am a citizen of the city, and I want the city to thrive and do well in all aspects. That being said, I am a realist at heart. I just got to be objective. And one thing that I'm noticing with all of my friends, all of my loved ones that are Grizzly fans, that are Memphis fans, they are not objective and cannot be objective about this convo. I have been saying for at least 2 to 3 months that if the Grizzlies don't make it, and y'all can go track previous videos, because lately our videos haven't been that consistent, but we have been making some videos about the Grizzlies. So all these people that are saying, oh, now you guys want to talk about the Grizzlies because of I've been talking about this. And what I said at least 2 to 3 months ago was that if this team doesn't make it out the first round, big changes are going to happen. I said that verbatim. The Desmond Bane move, was I surprised or shocked by it? No, I'm always kind of surprised by the timing of things, because the playoffs were still undergoing. And that's where a lot of the quote unquote irritation from Grizzly fans is coming from about, oh, you guys, you can't even wait till the season ends. But this is on the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies decided to make these moves while the players were still undergoing. You got to know, and what I basically told Jay and what I told Buffy a few months ago was this. The Grizzlies are the smallest market in the NBA. Ja Morant, I think he's very overrated, but he is a very, very appealing and aesthetically appeasing player to watch. So he's a highlight reel. He sells a lot of shoes. The media loves him. They want him to do well. They don't want him in the smallest market. It's oxymoronic. This guy that can generate millions upon maybe billions of dollars, but he's in Memphis. He's in the city of Memphis. They don't want that. They want him to be in a bigger market. They want him to be in maybe a Miami or an LA or, a Texas or New York. That's where they want him to go. So they actually clamor for the team to not do well. And when they don't do well, they're never going to talk about the Grizzlies. Even if the Grizzlies were the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, they're not going to talk about them. So the only time they will talk about them is when they do poorly, so they can start projecting trade rumors. I said this. It's evident. It's easy to track. All you got to do is just pay attention to the game, pay attention to this league under the Adam Silver regime. This is how they operate. If there's a player that has a lot of, a pizzazz, aura, as our generation likes to state, that can generate a lot of revenue, but he's in a smaller market, they will clamor for the team to be unsuccessful so that they can put more pressure on that player to request a trade. And if he doesn't request a trade, what they're going to say is he doesn't want to win. He's only in it for the money. So that being said, I do think personally that it is time for the Memphis Grizzlies and Ja Morant to part ways. I think that this marriage needs to come to a conclusion. And you can put onus on both sides. So I will break down why I think it should come to a conclusion. Let's talk about Ja Morant. He has not gotten any better. If we just look at I'm going to call this his peak. You can say from 2022 to 2023. In 2022, he played 57 games. He averaged 27.5 points per game, basically. Averaged 6.7 assists per game. 57.5% true shooting percentage. And he shot 34.4% from the three-point line. That is probably his best season. Then the year after that, he pretty much kind of stayed the same, but still great production, 27 points per game. Three-point percentage went down a little bit, but he did play 61 games. This past season, we have Ja Morant averaging 22.9 points, 7.2 assists, true shooting percentage of 56.3, a three-point percentage of 30.9. He's not getting that much better. He's not getting better. He's actually regressing. If we're going to be honest about him, because Ja Morant is 25, 26 years of age, this is when you're supposed to be hitting your prime. I can make a legitimate argument, and he can prove me wrong. Ja Morant can come back in this next season and average 28 and team be a top three seed in the Western Conference and prove me wrong. But based on my observation, I do not think he's going to get better. Because in my opinion, the only way for him to improve upon his game is for it to improve his jump shooting. That's asking a lot. Because, I don't know if Ja Morant is a gym rat that's really in the lab working on his craft like that. We can assume that he is doing so, but I see guys like Anthony Edwards that is documented. This guy went into the lab and worked on his three-point shooting and became basically the best three-point shooter in the league. That goes to show his work ethic. But what I can see is I'm not on Ja Morant's social media. I don't give a damn about any of that. So I'm not looking at every little thing that he's doing, his workouts. I look at the statistical output of what you're doing on the court. I'm seeing your three-point percentage either flatline or go down. Your production is going down. So when I'm seeing things like that, I'm saying, okay, this is a guy that has not gotten better. Can anybody tell me that Ja Morant has improved since his 2022-2023 season? I can't say that. I cannot. So when I see things like that, I'm like, okay, let's look at some additional things that are kind of out of his control. Let's look at his size. Let's look at his injury history. Ja Morant's about 6'1", 175 pounds. He is one of the most athletic players in the league at 6'1", 175. His injury track record this past season, he was on the injury report at least 15 times. He had 8 different ailments. That's coming from ankle, hip, knee, back, wrist, shoulder, all these different ailments. Is his health going to improve? He's 25, 26. He's only going to get older. His health is not going to improve. You're 6'1", 175 point guard. People compare him to that Russell Westbrook, Derrick Rose mold, but he's actually a lot smaller than those guys. But he does the same thing. And those guys have a poor injury track record. When your game is solely based on athleticism and you don't have enough skill to your game, over time, you're not going to have longevity in this game of basketball. Guys get out there getting hurt more. We just saw what just happened with Tyrese Halliburton with that situation. We're seeing more Achilles injuries. We're seeing a lot more soft tissue injuries. Ja Morant gets hurt every year. His health is not going to improve. So if I'm the Grizzlies, let's take it back to them. I have to sit back and say, okay, what is our next 3 to 5? With this guy, is this guy good enough to be the best player on a championship winning team? And it goes back to my final point. I don't think so. I think you can make a legitimate argument that there are 15 to 20 guys better than Ja Morant, just going off of what transpired last season. And if there's 15 to 20 guys better than my star player facing my franchise, you're not winning a championship. You're just not. In order to be the best player on a championship winning team, you really need to be in that top 5 to 10, but you can't be lower than 10. Ja Morant hasn't been competing for top 10 since 2023. So we also see a lot of other niggas that have surpassed him. And that can be momentarily because he can prove me wrong and this can be a completely different convo. But right now, where it currently stands and me projecting based off what he's done, not even talking about the off the court shit. I don't really want to talk about that because all niggas going to tell me is that, oh, well, this year he hasn't done anything. Okay, you get a cookie for having one season where you don't have any, off the court issues. But then we have a little on the court shit where, you're kind of just, with the celebration, which I think is nothing, but you're still egging on the league when the commissioner is telling you to stop that shit. Egging them on until they have to kindly tap you on your shoulder and be like, okay, nigga, no more, no mas. And that's when you finally want to stop. So the maturity, the lack of leadership is also alarming me. And we're also seeing that with a lot of these young players, but those are just that's just a long list of things. And I come from a business background. My boy Buff and Jay, they're going to be, graduating with business degrees. So how I evaluate situations is from a business perspective as a corporation. And a corporation is going to look at what is the cost benefit? Is it worth it? Is Ja Morant worth it? Because he's going to be wanting another contract. Do I want to pay this man? Because is he going to be the future of my franchise? Memphis Grizzlies, you're not going to make any revenue based off of box office attraction. The market stinks. It sucks. You're only going to make money if you win. So with this guy, can we win? In my opinion, the answer is no. So what the hell are we really doing then? And it looks like from what I've seen, I don't think that they're going to make any more offseason moves. They might, but I don't think it's going to be a big move like trading a Triple J or trading Ja Morant. And that's just from the standpoint of they need to kind of see what Ja Morant is going to be, as well as I don't think that Ja Morant's stock is that high right now. I don't think his value is that high. Like niggas are saying, oh, well, if Desmond Bane went fall to that, what is Ja Morant going to go for? NBA trades are case by case basis. Because look at what happened with Rudy Gobert and look what happened with the Houston Rockets got for Kevin Durant. Two completely different scenarios. But also, Ja Morant's value is just not that high right now due to all the things I just listed out. Injuries, play style, maturity, and just him not being that great. So I put all of that on the floor, man. I know it's very long-winded, but I just had to lay everything out on the table because everything I'm stating comes from a measure of objectivity. No fandom, no emotion, none of that. I don't have a dog in the fight. I could care less if Ja Morant stays with the Grizzlies or not, but I am 100% confoundedly, positively sure that if he stays with the Grizzlies, they will never win a championship under his tenure.
Ooh, that's a big statement right there. But
just a factual
as far as the Grizzlies move with Desmond Bane, I don't think it was the wrong move, even though Desmond Bane had really good season. Ain't nothing wrong with that. He's the third option. Still hadn't made a all-star team in the West. But there's nothing wrong with that. Like Mal said, it is true. The Grizzlies, they usually seem to pop off in the media when it comes to something bad, or if they're teasing that, oh, the star player, he's got to go, which we have seen throughout this season. We've seen, oh, I think Ja Morant should go to, a Miami or some, big team because he's box office. He puts, butts in the seats. So that's been the main thing that we've really honestly seen with the Grizzlies floating around. And, we saw that Ja wasn't a fan of Stephen A. Smith talking about, the Grizzlies during the finals. But, you kind of look at the timeline. I mean, the Grizzlies made a move during the finals. So you can see why their names will be floating around. But you can definitely see that the Grizzlies are putting their faith, and you can kind of say they're putting their eggs in the basket for Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson. So this upcoming season without Desmond Bane is got to be really crucial. Now, yes, they got future first round picks to line them up. So that's definitely what put the thought of, oh, are they in a rebuild mode now with all the picks, because now they got picks to play around with. But the Grizzlies made it clear. So this will be a crucial season for the Grizzlies and mainly Ja Morant, because now we can hopefully see if he has a season where he's going to be healthy. And if he has a healthy season, what is he going to do? Is he going to look like the guy in 2023 who was getting, face of the league talks, top 10 talks, all of that? So that's going to be a big thing for Ja Morant. That's honestly the only thing. And I think the only thing that I'm pretty sure will be going through his mind during this offseason and for the Grizzlies as well is his health, because he's going to have to change something in his game, honestly. Like Jaren Jackson, he's 6'11", 7 foot, defensive stopper, but you don't really get boards like that. Like him and Miles Turner, they kind of in the same boat when it comes to, grabbing boards. Like, yeah, they can block shots and all that, but they got to be a big man to grab them boards. And, he'll have to refrain from shooting, because he will jack up a bunch of threes and he will make you smack your head and say, brother, what are you doing? So he'll have to, be in his big man bag. The Grizzlies, they'll have, Jalen Wells coming back. We can see that KCP, he said that he loves the fact that he came to Memphis and he's excited for it. As we did see, on First Take, the Morris twins, one of them has said that stars or players don't want to be there. And then the other twin said that is true, but the only way players want to be there is if you want it. You want to be there. You want to go to the grind city, as the Grizzlies have been called when they had the early 2010s, mid 2010s roster with Conley, Tony Allen, Zebo, all them guys. You do have to want to be there, as we did see Stephen A. point out that a big name player like Jimmy Butler didn't want to be there. And you can say KD, even though the Grizzlies didn't make a move for him, I'm pretty sure if the Grizzlies did make a move for him, Kevin Durant was not going to want to go there. As far as the Grizzlies, if they ever want to have, big name players like a KD or somebody, if they're ever on a trade block, their best bet is going to Nashville, because it's a bigger market. It's constantly rising.
Who has been saying that? I've also been saying that.
Yeah. Bardo's been saying that in plenty of our Grizzlies videos.
Can I make one point about because I don't know if you're going to continue to talk about the Stephen A. remarks about the city itself, because I didn't touch on that, but I did want to touch on that quickly if I can, and you can interject if you want to. I just want to say this. All the people that are in their feelings about what Stephen A. Smith said are just people that do not live in the city. When Stephen A. Smith is talking about how dangerous the city is, it's just a fact. It's one of the most dangerous cities in America, if not the most. I don't really feel like just rambling off a bunch of statistics, because it's overkill. And like I said, I stay here and I have plenty of family here, plenty of people that I love and admire that live here. But since niggas want to get in their feelings about what Stephen A. Smith said and tried to call him like some hater of the city, let's just break this down real quick, shall we? In 2023, Memphis led the nation with the highest violent crime rate, roughly 2,572 violent crimes per 100,000 people. In 2022 alone, there were 15,318 violent crime incidents, including 289 homicides among a population of 628,000 people in the city. That's a 237% above national average. So I'm not going to keep on going, but listen to those numbers. And if you are an NBA player, if you are a player that's in your, late 20s, early 30s, maybe mid 30s, and you have a family, is that an environment that you want to uproot your family into? Not saying that it's a bad environment, but in comparison to some of these other markets, ladies and gentlemen, it's not even a combo. Like, it literally isn't a combo. If I'm comparing Memphis to all of these other markets, I will probably choose all of them over them. We're talking about markets over there in Houston and Dallas, and Jimmy Butler ended up going into the Bay Area. Is that a combo? That's not even a interesting conversation to have. That man went from Miami. You think he's going to go to Memphis to uproot his family? Then also, what about marketing opportunities? We don't have anything. So that's like, it's time to alleviate all of the emotion and just stick to facts. Because if we want to really keep it honest, I know that, Grizzly fans can get frustrated because, you're a small market. But we got to do better. We got to, and I know that Paul Young, the mayor of Memphis, he has been, putting out initiatives to help clean up the city. But we got a long way to go before we can even start to argue a case as to why people should be coming here in comparison to other markets. Okay, that's really my only point. My only point is when we're trying to compare ourselves to other markets, we got to stop. We got to clean up this damn city. We got to get these criminals off the damn streets. We got to put the guns away. That's just facts. And I wasn't going to say this, but that is why a guy like Ja Morant, if he's going to stay here, has to do better. And a lot of it is really just being a professional on the basketball court. That's really all we ask of you to do, because all of the kids are going to be looking up to you, sir. So when they're looking up to you and you're doing foolishness like, forget about the gun stuff. That was terrible. But even, your celebrations are not being available, or some of the arrogant comments that you make, that is not professionalism. That is not being a legitimate role model. And unfortunately, athletes are role models. So Ja Morant needs to take accountability if he wants to stay here, because he has told the city, he has told social media that he wants to stay here. I'm going to need him to do a better job of being a role model for this city. In 2023, last year, I can say that he was a shitty role model, terrible. Now I can say that he's just, he hadn't done anything bad, but he can do a whole lot better. And he is going to have to do better if he's going to stay with this franchise. There's a lot in this convo, bro. There's a lot of things that need to be discussed. There's a lot of uncomfortable conversations that need to be had. And if you are from the area, let us know in the comments, bro, like what y'all think about this, because all the people I've been coming into contact with want to keep on excusing Ja Morant and his decision making. They want to continue to defend the city, which I understand. But let's add some context to the conversation, bro. Stop acting like Stephen A. Smith was hating on it. He's not hating on the city. He just being honest.
Facts. I completely agree. What Stephen A. said was, something that's bigger than basketball. And it was honestly a wake-up call for the city and, Ja Morant. Stephen A. Smith said, he got family out there, friends out there. And, he has love for the city of Memphis. And even the mayor, he just invited Stephen A. to come to the city, and which he accepted. So, Stephen A. Smith wasn't doing that to hate on the city. He was just pointing out, that there's some bigger going on as to why, players don't want to go there. Even though, yes, the city of Memphis does, when they have players, basketball players represent their city, they will, make sure to look out for them. But the city itself, it has to do better. It's a reason why Memphis was named, the most dangerous city in America. And yes, even though the mayor said that, statistics shows that, killing was going down, all those things. But Memphis is, smaller compared to, a city like Detroit, Chicago, all that. So our numbers are going to look way different than, these bigger cities that may be more dangerous, but they have a bigger population. So the per capita is going to look different. But, I completely agree. This is something that as a city, they're going to have to do better. Ja Morant, even though you can see that he's slowly, becoming a better professional, he'll have to continue on that path because as far as the city of Memphis, he's like one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest, that the city looks up to. And, Stephen A. Smith, after replying to Ja Morant's tweets, in which Ja had replied to, the first comments about the city of Memphis, Stephen A. Smith was like, that's why he thinks Ja Morant is perfect for the city because, they look up to him so much, kids love him. But, he's going to have to, be a professional and represent that city and, help that city to its fullest. Now, when you hear the name Ja Morant, you don't necessarily see, him doing things in the community, but it is there. He's got an AU team, all that. But of course, a lot of media outlets don't show it because they like to push the negative things, as that does sell more. But Ja Morant, he's just gonna have to continue on this path. I think he's fine in the city of Memphis. So he's showing that he's trying to grow. He's showing that he loves this city and he wants to be here. So the Grizzlies will continue to fall for him and put their eggs in the basket for him. So yeah, man, like Bardo said, the city is gonna have to do their part just as much as Ja Morant's gonna have to do his part. So if the Grizzlies want to be talked about by the media and a lighter outlet and not always talk about in a bad way, or when it's trade talks, the city and the franchise player, they'll just have to do better. But I'm interested to see how next year's season goes for us. I got big expectations. Hopefully we get Zach Edey back right, because he had ankle surgery. Hopefully we get another all-star caliber year out of Jaren Jackson, and hopefully we just get a healthy year out of Ja Morant with elevation to his game, because a lot of people don't believe in him. A lot of people think he's past his prime, and his best days are behind him, and 2023 was his peak. So Ja Morant, like Michael Irvin saying, nobody cares about you. What are you going to do about it? Thank you, sir.
Jay brought up a great point about how you really have to evaluate. People need to consider this. When we're comparing Memphis to these other cities, Memphis is way smaller than these other cities. So when I'm talking about those homicide numbers, about how Memphis is leading and is like surpassing New York City in homicides in 2022 and 2023, that's taking into account that the city of Memphis is 10% the population of New York. So all of you people that are, in your feelings about everything I'm talking about, you're like I said, when we talk about small market, we mean that less amount of people in compared to these other areas. But then look at all of these, violent statistics that I'm bringing up. It doesn't make any damn sense. And even when people say that things are improving, okay, that's cool. Things are improving. They need to continue to improve. You feel what I'm saying? This is just over the course of a, 12 to 18 month span. I need years upon years. I need decades of consistent, continual growth before I can sit back and say, oh yeah, man, they're hating on the city. Like I said, me just being objective, I would recommend moving this thing to Nashville. I think there's just a whole lot more opportunity, a whole lot more money to be made, and it is, no disrespect, just a safer, more productive environment. I don't even know what the hell the holdup is at this point. I think maybe it's just the tax write-offs are just probably better in the Shelby County district area. Maybe that's why they're staying here, because I don't really see any other advantageous situation from a growth perspective of why we are still domiciled in Memphis, Tennessee. But that's just my perspective, my viewpoint on it. If the Memphis Grizzlies just have some hard decisions to make, in my opinion, either decision that they do make to keep Ja Morant or not to keep him, it's going to come with, it's just not a good decision to make. So they just got to figure out which one that they're comfortable living with. Are you comfortable being mediocre but still having this star, or rebuild, have the fan base turn their backs against you like they did with Luka Doncic? Or my third option is to kind of let this season play out. If Ja Morant is, bullshitting, then you got a clear-cut reason to go ahead and ship him. So my opinion, option 3 is what they're going to take, Jay. I think that they're going to try to see this out a little bit. Then, if the record is not that good, or if Ja Morant is not performing that well, or if the record is not that good, but Ja Morant is like putting up good stats, then they can shop him. They can just say like, hey, our team's not good enough. He's a valuable asset. What y'all want for him? Then you get some more draft picks and you can start over. And then kind of just like take the Oklahoma City approach and just rebuild from the ground up. I think that's what they need to do. Then I will say I'm going to hold the front office accountable as well. They need to make some better decisions. I still didn't agree with the fact of firing Jenkins 10 games left into your season. I thought that was foolish. So they need to do a better job as well. But it's just a collaborative effort. There are just so many things that need to change within this organization from the top down, as well as Ja Morant. He needs to do some self-reflecting. Like, when you're going to make bold statements about how you want to be here, you need to understand the power in your words and what that actually means, sir. And you need to make strides in order to live up to that expectation that you place out there. So that's all that I ask. I just ask for Memphians to be more objective, man. Be more objective, because all of those good, hard-working citizens out there, you deserve better. So stop taking bullshit from these entitled, spoiled athletes and hold them accountable. Because Ja Morant's a very talented player. His ass needs to be held accountable. He has to be better. He hasn't been good enough. And that's off the court and on the court. For his talent, he has not been good enough. He needs to do better.